Eckert,
Here.
McMullen, Thomas McWilliams,
Here.
Rusty Moss,
Here.
Charlie Spates,
Here.
Wes Ward. We have a quorum.
This time I'd like commissioners to review the commission meeting minutes for March 27th. Are there any additions or deletions, amendments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting. Motion approved. Motion. Second, Commissioner Moss. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Next, our report. Ms. Taylor, good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. I appreciate your time this morning as we head into Memorial Day weekend. I hope these Arkansas rain chances don't mess up any plans. But just some updates from our last meeting, or since our last meeting. Our 3 media offices were able to participate and provide presentations during the AEF spring seminars. We really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of our regulated community and provide some updates. So each of those offices talked about different things, common compliance issues, common permitting issues, but we were also able to promote our new guidance document. We got together with AEF, they provided some feedback, and we created a guidance document on permit streamlining and flexibility options that are already within the existing regulations or existing permit conditions. So we're really excited to be able to promote that to the regulated community. Consultants or permittees can use that to know what options they have available and just make the request. And then also earlier this month, our fiscal session ended. We did get a budget passed, but I bring this up because there's some special language in there regarding the used tire program. So I've been up here several times talking about some revised business plans. You know that of the $3 fee that's charged when you remove a tire from a rim, $231 is actually available for us to issue as a reimbursement to the districts. But the district's business plan rates exceed $280 in many cases. So the special language in the budget caps the tire reimbursement at $231. This will stabilize our fund so that we will no longer be operating in a deficit. The other thing this special language does is gives the districts the opportunity to recoup some of that cost from the customer, or the retailers to recoup the additional cost from the customer. So what this means is that for you is that the districts will have to provide updated business plans to account for those extra costs that they're going to recoup. Even though we will only be reimbursing $231, we want to know exactly what it's going to cost the customer, the retailer, the transporter, everyone. So all of those numbers will be documented in the business plans and will be provided for your review and approval. You may have seen in the news the C&S chemicals enforcement, the spill that they had. So on May 2nd, EPA was notified by the National Response Center that the C&S chemicals facility in Fort Smith exploded, releasing 100,000 gallons of acidified aluminum sulfate on site. We later learned that it was actually caused by a tank rupture, not an explosion, and the volume was later reported at 77,000 gallons of acidified aluminum sulfate and 2,900 gallons of sulfuric acid. C&S has contracted that, May 2nd, they had a contract with Environmental Works Incorporated, and they have been conducting the remediation. E&E's emergency management, which does report up through Chief Administrator York, but we're working closely together with the DEQ staff. On May 3rd, the E&E emergency management team or members of that team was on site assessing the spill and surrounding area. It did include tributary and stormwater drainage, which drains into Oklahoma. And so we had Sebastian County, OEM, EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, and the Choctaw Nation have all been involved in this response. So the initial impact of the release did result in a fish kill and lower pH to the water bodies. The EWI that's conducting the remediation has been backing some of the water, agitating it, and also adding lime to address the pH concerns. And Game and Fish is actually on site today, I believe, is it today? Yeah, counting the fish and doing that inventory. On May 8th, EPA, they were the on-scene coordinator. They closed that response and turned it over to E&E's emergency management section. So we are leading that along with Oklahoma DEQ, respectively. We continue to meet with the responsible party and their contractor to monitor progress, and then and working with Game and Fish as well. So we'll keep you updated if there's any new developments on that. We will continue that until it's completely remediated. And then lastly, so at the last meeting, I provided the update on the Taneytown air sampling study, and I assured you a follow-up on the recent elevated temperature landfill comments published in the Arkansas Times. So the landfill has 253 gas wells on the site, and per federal regulations, they are required to monitor the subsurface temperature and the pressure at least once per month. If there's any exceedances or deviations from the requirements, they have to report that on their semi-annual report. So if the temperature exceeds 145 degrees, they have to report that in their semi-annual report. If the pressure is a negative pressure at the time of the reading, they have to report that on their semi-annual report. Our inspectors review those. But then also when we're on an on-site inspection, they look at the logs of whether if the temperature is not exceeded, they're still going to write down what the temperature was. It just won't get reported unless it's exceeding 145. So, but the landfill has not reported an exceedance of the 145-degree temperature threshold. However, they have reported instances of negative pressure in their semi-annual report. When that is found, the federal regulations require that the corrective action be implemented in 5 days. In the majority of these instances, the negative pressure is resolved within the hour. So there's no violation for that because they took the required action. So with that, there's no indication that Ecovista landfill is at risk for elevated temperature landfill. Any questions or comments? That's the end of my report.
Commissioners, anyone have any questions?
I have one going back to the tire fees. You talked about business plans needing to be, what's the timeline on those? When is there a deadline when they'll have to?
We did not place a deadline, but the new rate will go into effect starting July 1. And so we're hopeful to have all of those business plans. Because the rate that we reimburse will be $231 regardless, we're not setting such a timeline because we know that they need to get new contracts in place and that may take time with their procurement. But we're hoping this summer that they have all of those completed.
Thank you.
Another question?
Any other questions?
Chief, I apologize. I said I wasn't going to ask you a question
No, please.
this morning, but it's two-pronged and it has to do with Fort Smith situation. So I know that we have the ability to do cost recovery for a remedial action and a RAFA. And I am chagrined to not know or not recall or remember if we have that same authority to recover costs for response action similar to the Fort Smith matter. I just don't know the answer. Mr. McAllister may know. I don't. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then the second part of the question was, probably Commissioner Batten knows this better than I do at this point. Were there any negative impacts to natural resources from this bill?
The fish, yes, sir. Yeah.
So
it may be, I don't know the answer to your first question, but a lot of times the damages is what.
I gather you're still the trustee for natural resources under the law, or do you know that? It used to be back in the day.
I don't know that. Do you know?
Or is that collaborative with Game and Fish?
Okay.
Fine.
But we're working through that. That's why we keep record of the time that we spend and any resources that we use. We keep record of that just in case there are. But the responsible party is paying for the cleanup, so it's not coming out of RAPA at
Okay.
this point.
Mr. Batten, what?
Yeah, my agency was on the ground. We work closely with the department. Once we're cleared and we know it's safe for our folks to be out there and go look. And I know the report was made within a few days, and they'll continue monitoring over time. But we try to integrate and the number of species and individuals that are taken. And then we provide that information, and then I believe it's used. There's some text on the values of different aquatic life that may be factored into any remediation.
Can you use a blueprint from the Mayflower spill that we had? Is that the recipe at this point?
Well, that is certainly the most notable spill in recent memory. This was nowhere near that level, but yes, I mean, it's not dissimilar on a smaller scale.
Just for my own curiosity. I apologize again for asking you questions, Chief.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the public comment period. We've got 3 commenters. Mr. Kenneth Lovett. Lovett, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. I'll move this down so I don't have to lean so far forward. A lot of people want to know who I think I am. My name is Kenneth Lovett, and I'm a citizen of Washington County in Northwest Arkansas, exposed to hazardous vapors from EcoVista Waste Management, in my opinion. What are y'all going to do about the acrylonitrile in the community of Tawnytown? ADEQ does not know how or does not want to pinpoint the source of the emissions of vapors within a landfill in the middle of a growing residential community, in my opinion. Y'all know what this is? Y'all aware what this is? This is a Sensodyne AP20S. It's a model pump. This model pump is designed specifically for the use with Sensodyne detector tubes and can detect the presence of more than 300 airborne gases and vapors. These tubes I have, one is acrolein. It reads within 0.005 to 1.8%. This one's benzene. It reads between 0.1 and 75 parts per million. I use these tubes to test the ambient air around the community. Do these tubes register any benzene and acrolein in the ambient air in our community? Yes. But ADEQ still denies it exists. I can use vapors. I can use video. I'm still ignored. Ms. Colby Jones, Associate Environmental Administrator of Energy and Environment, wrote us an email to citizens, and I'm going to read that email. Acrylonitrile is the only detected constituent from the May 2025 air sampling study determined to be above federal health concern guidelines regarding both non-cancer and cancer risk by the Arkansas Department of Health. This CETA study identified acrylonitrile as not likely contributed by the landfill, possibly from another stationary or mobile emission source, but they still don't know where it's coming from. I can tell you where it's coming from. Therefore, in my opinion, the only constituent identified as posing a risk to public health has no identifiable source, and this is from E&E. E&E continues to research potential acrylonitrile point sources in this region. Additionally, E&E has requested assistance from the Environmental Protection Agency Region 6 Air Toxic Enforcement Section. The last test was a year ago. The ones before that was 2 years ago. We're still being exposed in that community. In addition, the May 2025 air sampling study, which was designed to determine the sources of previously detected compounds, determined that the majority of the constituents identified were from contributors not likely from the landfill. Where are they coming from? As they were consistent with background air quality. 2 constituents were identified as being contributed likely by the landfill in the parts per trillion range, benzene and ethylbenzene. However, ADH concluded that there are no significant health risks for the compounds identified by CETA as a criterion associated with contributions of the landfill. 3 previous tests showed high concentrations of hazardous vapors. The last test was planned ahead far enough to get low readings, in my opinion. And it is one you base the future on. Why do you pick 1 out of 4? Acrylonitrile is a clear, this come from the internet, actually. You can't believe everything on the internet, but you can believe this, in my opinion. Acrylonitrile is a clear, highly volatile, and flammable liquid with pungent onion-like odor. It is primarily utilized as a vital chemical intermediate in the production of plastics, acrylic fibers, nitrile rubbers, and resins. It is highly toxic and requires significant safety measures. The reactivity, it says, it is highly reactive and can undergo spontaneous, potentially explosive polymerization if not inhibited. Industrial uses is foundational monomer used to build everyday materials. Health and safety hazards, acrylonitrile is absorbed easily through inhalation, ingestion, and direct skin contact. Toxicity, y'all listen to this. It is acutely toxic and can cause asphyxiation, nausea, dizziness, and central nervous system depression. Exactly what we're having trouble with. Carcinogens, cancer causing. It is classified as a probable human carcinogen and a potential occupational carcinogen, heavily linked to brain, lung, and bowel cancers. Regulation, because of its severe health and fire hazards, workplaces handling acrylonitrile must adhere to strict exposure controls and use specialized personal protective equipment. For comprehensive regulatory and medical management guidelines, consult the CDC Toxic Substances Portal or the OSHA Chemical Database. ADQ has stated when the fellow was here before Bailey, said they don't talk to OSHA. They don't regulate either. From what I have witnessed, this body waits on Judge Moulton to put out a minute order, and then y'all approve it. He checks it out, says it's okay, and y'all approve it. I've never seen y'all not pass a minute order that I've seen yet. And in the last meeting, Judge Moulton attempted to make a point that sulfur dioxide was not present in the last test. There were no problems. I've never complained about sulfur dioxide. I've complained about acrolein. I've complained about dizziness. I've complained about nervousness, headaches. Who's supposed to look at this stuff? How do you have a judge that's working for you that's not in conflict of interest? When I'm telling you it's there. I know there's stipulations that says he can do it, but it hasn't happened that I've seen. I'm still breathing this crap. I need your help. Need your help. Yours. Nobody's doing what they're supposed to do. If it's not in ADQ's ball game, whose is it? Why are y'all not reaching out to them people? Why are we still suffering? It's not a game we're playing. It's people's lives, whether it's from EcoVista that I feel, or whether it's somebody else pinpoint that problem, police. It's there. Thank you.
One moment, please, sir. Commissioners, anyone have any questions? Mr. Love? Sir, this information today, I'm just going to ask if you provided copy of what you've just presented to us to,
I'll email it to you shortly.
well, I would prefer it if you send it to Ms. Bailey,
To who?
Bailey Taylor.
Let's say. Okay, I will.
If you give, and Ms. Taylor, if you would review that, please get back to them. If there's anything that you haven't already addressed.
And please tell the truth.
Thank you. Thank
Don't
you.
sugarcoat
Thank
it.
you. Next commenter, Mark Calcagney. Calcagney, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Mark Calcagney, 12642 Harbor Acres, Tiny Town, Arkansas. I just live a half a mile west of the landfill. We appreciate this commission to allow public comment, so I want to say thank you for that. Here again today, I know I'm a broken record, in hopes that both entities do what's in their name for pollution control, ecology, and environmental quality. There have been 4 Tiny Town air tests results by both the Arkansas National Guard and ADEQ/CTEH. All showed harmful chemicals in the air, such as acrolein and benzene. Matter of fact, the ADEQ/CTEH test showed acrolein at 4,900% above EPA regional screening levels, and benzene at 209% over EPA regional screening levels. We had an expert examine this report. The expert is Dr. Philip J. Landgren. I'm going to spell this last name for you because I wish you would just Google him. Landrigan, Philip Landgren. He's a pediatrician and epidemiologist specializing in the effects of environmental toxins on children's health and development. Landgren's career included training at Harvard Medical School and the CDC, followed by roles as a CDC epidemiologist, former chair of the preventive medicine of Mount Sinai School of Medicine, director of global public health programs at an institution including Boston College and Boston University. He was in the Navy and also was involved in environmental issues reported to sailors. He's a real good friend of our state representative, and that's how we discovered him. Dr. Landgren assessed the ADEQ/CTE air test. This is him speaking. This report acknowledges 2 compounds, benzene and ethylbenzylene, were identified as having contributors likely from the landfill. It acknowledges that another 9 components were identified as well. I find the classification most likely from the landfill, that 2 of these compounds, benzene and ethylbenzene, were detected at especially high levels. Nowhere does the September 8th report note the well-established fact that benzene is a proven human carcinogen that is strongly linked to excessive occurrences of leukemia, lymphoma. Infants in the womb and young children are especially at high risk. He says, this is the big point. He says it would therefore be wise to take measures to reduce benzene exposure now and not wait for a tragedy. Should read that again. It would therefore be wise to take measures to reduce benzene exposures now and not wait for a tragedy to happen. The city of Tiny Town also had a local company called Carbon Chicken. They're based in Fayetteville. They're an agriculture company that tries to reduce water pollution, upcycles of waste, enhance soil health, and direct sequences of carbon to reduce CO2 emissions. They tested the Tiny Town area lift station, which receives untreated leachate from Waste Management. It goes to the lift station. It's about almost a little bit less than a half a mile away. It goes underground, and then after it goes there, it goes to NACO, which is the wastewater treatment facility. The purpose was to determine if this leachate lift station is emitting compounds that may affect air quality and odor conditions. Key findings: sulfur compounds, main odor source. 2, hydrogen sulfide detected consistently at high levels of odor thresholds causing strong odors. Carbon disulfide and mercaptans are also detected. VOCs, volatile organic compounds, were detected. Ethanol spiked from 14 ppc that it was tested in October to 1,600 ppbv in November, over 100% increase, indicates that the process release, spill, venting, and chemical biological reactions. They tested in October and in November, and they thought in November with colder weather that it would show less of a spike, but it showed an extreme spike in November, confirms process-driven emissions. So they had a biochemical scrubber in there, and they installed it to see if they could help with the odors. Installed it between the sampling events. It did not reduce emissions. Conditions worsened significantly, likely because overwhelmed due to high humidity, high gas load, and underlying reactions events. So the overall conclusion, persistent sulfur compound emissions causing odor issues. Significant VOC release occurred in November 4th. Biochar scrubber was ineffective based on measured results. So the last thing they mentioned is further monitoring diagnostics are recommended. And in December of 2025, a well water test was analyzed by TopSource, a national water testing company. This water sample was directly very, very close to the landfill. TAPSCORE, which is the testing company, sets a health guidelines, HGL, for compounds which represent the most stringent recommendations for each contaminant, taken from dozens of official benchmarks, including from the EPA, Minnesota Department of Health, California, and others. Basically, it is a conservative estimate unifying all the data we have on toxicity of each chemical. Forever chemicals were found, PFAS, of the 14 tested. Now I'm going to give you the acronym, but I can't hardly say the word because it's such a long one, but I'm going to try. Fluorodecainc acid, PFDS. This exceeds the HGL, the safety level set by the latest research and health studies. It was 419,000% above the HGL. Health effects, liver toxicity, disease, kidney disease, various cancers, immune system suppressions, high cholesterol, and development delays in children, in children, and then also reproductive problems. Chlorofluorohexane acid, which is PFHXA, was detected just below the HGL. Health effects, liver disease, kidney disease, reproductive problems. Chlorofluorobutane sulfuric acid, sorry, I'm not so good with those. PFBS is its acronym. High health effects, and it was tested at just below the HGL as well. Health effects, thyroid disease, kidney disease. The real red flag is the first one, which is the PFAS, PFDA, and that's because it's a legacy PFAS, meaning an older chemical that is extremely toxic, like as deadly as the most notorious PFAS. The PFAS that's very deadly was PFOA, which has been phased out of usage due to the extreme toxicity. Studies link PFDA to the same severe health outcomes as PFOA, which is considered a carcinogen by the World Health Organization. And there's much in that report, but I don't have time to do that. So we asked Dr. Landegren, the specialist, the expert, and this is what he had to say about the water test. What this says to me is that the Tinytown landfill is leaking hazardous and carcinogens, PFAS compounds, and potentially other toxic chemicals into the groundwater in Northwest Arkansas. This is hardly a surprise finding that since most landfills eventually leak waste into groundwater, because even the best, most state-of-the-art landfill liners eventually develop tears or leaks and thus become permeable. In addition to the toxicities listed in the attached note, the World Health Organization has determined that PFAS compounds are associated with testicular cancer. Lastly, I might want to add this as well. This landfill is in a karst area. The first cell of the landfill does not have a liner. Waste Management took it over and did not have a liner. Also, it's the only industry in a 2 to 3 mile radius. It's mostly residential, this area. The last time I presented this water test results, it was disputed by the commission here. I guess the last ADEQ CTE air test could be disputed as well, as the air test did not follow the Arkansas Health Department recommendation of testing on site at the landfill, which was not done. It was done during testing during a rainy week and not tested at the hot spots of the last ADQ CTE. It did not test at the hot spot. Matter of fact, Mr. Levitt and myself live at those hot spots. Again, we appreciate you allowing public comment, and we have hope for pollution control and environmental quality in this highly growing residential area. Thank you. I'm sorry I had to read, but that was a lot, and I appreciate letting me go over. Thank you so much.
One moment. Any commissioners, anyone have questions or comments for Mr. Calcagney? All right, sir. Also, Mr. Calcagney, if you, once again, like I told Mr. Lovett, if those, what you presented today, if you would provide a copy of that to Ms. Taylor.
I sure will. I will do that. Thank you all.
The next commenter, Angela Russell. Mayor, good morning.
Me.
Hey, Mayor Russell, Angela Russell in Tawnytown. I just gave you a handout. This was from E.B. Weisblatt. She's the one that did the article in the Times. She actually came to Tawnytown and did the presentation to us. And that's why it says, "Thank you, Mayor," at the top. She's a freelance investigative reporter based in Benton County and has been doing journalism for the last 5 years. And whenever she was doing this report, not only did she get other people's opinions, she sent out the information. She had each of the air testing. I see the light going off and on, yes. And she did all of the air testing and evaluated everything. She got Dr. Landron to help her with that. Not only did he help her, she also got, I believe she told me, 4 other people to help her with this report. So it's not just something that she just made up and wrote up, and there was an investigation done within this. 6 months just for this part of it to get her report. All right, on the air pollution that she says, you guys have all heard us talk about how horrible the vapors are, how bad the odors are, and this actually shows scientific proof. The chemicals were detected. The chemicals in the previous air samplings were detected. My family and citizens have been affected by this. 3 weeks ago, Mr. Calcagney just told you about it, how it affects your body. My daughter lost her baby. It was stillborn. We live 350 feet from where they're going to put the next cell. I also live in one of the hot spots. I have one that lives next door to me, and then another one that has a house and lives next door to her. I've told you about my grandson that is 5 years old, that had all of his platelets were almost gone. His platelet levels was 0.008. Normal is 350. He almost had none left. He was in children's. He had to have all different kinds of medical things done to him. Another grandson that lives next door, JIA. We've had people next door dying of cancer. We have a young man that lives toward the end of Arbor Acres that is in such horrible health condition at 22 years old that he has to have all different kinds of medical issues taken care of. In this report, it shows about the air pollution. In this report, it shows about the water contamination. In this report, it shows about the elevated temperatures from the landfill. And I know Ms. Taylor just got through speaking about that. And I know Mr. Calcagney just got through talking to you guys about the leachate that goes through the system and comes out on Penalto Road. If that landfill did not have something hot under it, why would that leachate be going to the pump station, boiling, according to Carbon Chicken's report? There's something going on there. I was asked why I continue to come up here, why I continue to speak to you guys about this, why Mr. Calcagney comes and speaks, why Mr. Lovett comes and speaks. And I wanted to tell you something about Mr. Lovett. He has over 28 years of experience in chemicals. I don't know if any of you knew that or not. He has over 28 years of experience in chemicals. He knows what he's talking about, but nobody's listening. The reason I continue to come up here is because I want it on record that we have come up here, we begged for help. When a catastrophe happens in Tawnytown, which in my opinion, I think it will, in Ms. Weisblatt's opinion, she thinks it will. I want it on record that we have begged you guys to do something about it. We have come to the state. We have come to the Joint Performance Review Boards. We need something done. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone have any questions or comments from Mayor Russell? Would you please provide a copy of your report to Ms. Taylor?
I believe she already has it. She said she read it in the Times.
Provide her a written copy anyway. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Mayor. Ms. Taylor, based on these three comments, next meeting, if you wouldn't mind updating us on your communications with Mayor Russell and other citizens on your response to anything that you haven't already looked at that is new information for you. Thank you very much. At this time, we have one more matter on our agenda. Judge Bolton, you have a recommended decision.
I do, Mr. Chairman, but before we gravitate into that, I just wanted to give the commission a quick update on the city of Decatur matter and that appeal. If you recall, I believe the last commission meeting we had, you voted in favor of the recommended decision and dismissed that appeal predicated on the concept of the doctrine that you need a law license in order to practice law in the state of Arkansas. That matter was appealed to circuit court. That appeal was filed April 24th. The commission was served a couple of weeks after that, formally served with that notice of appeal. That started the clock ticking in terms of our requirement to lodge the record with the circuit court as well as a response. The Attorney General's office is a representative body in that matter. As a matter of fact, Deputy Attorney General Doralee Chandler is the one that's going to be handling that appeal. She already professed, as well as the AG's office professed, they are highly interested in the issue because apparently the unauthorized practice of law is not unique in administrative bodies, and they've been itching to have a case like this to get an answer in terms of what the Supreme Court or the appellate courts feel about this matter. She hasn't filed a response as of yet. I think she's got about another week or so to do so. But as that trundles along through the appellate process, I will do my best to keep you apprised. And with that, we'll go ahead and turn to the recommended decision, which is in the matter of general permit ARR 1,550,000, I think. This is a standard recommendation in terms of granting a motion to dismiss filed by DEQ. And the matter was dismissed because it failed to meet the pleading requirements set forth in our rules to jumpstart an administrative appeal. The little twist on this one was we have attempted to serve the commission's decision, the minute order, the recommended decision on the appellant. He's refused service. We've made it a couple of times in terms of electronic and certified mail. He hasn't picked it up, but he also hasn't requested an oral argument either. So it's ripe for a decision, Mr. Chairman. If you want to turn it over to the commission for a vote, I'd appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the merits of the recommendation too.
Okay, commissioners, anyone have any questions for Judge Bolton? If not, we can entertain a motion to accept his recommended decision. Commissioner Spade, thank you. Second. Please, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. There's no other business. Thank everyone for coming. We're adjourned.
All right, just make certain everybody sticks around so they can sign that minute order before you scurry off.